What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today, my wonderful guest is Mr. Darrell Williams. Hello, Mr. Darrell Williams.
Hello, Mr. Gary Scott. How you doing today, sir?
I'm living the dream, buddy. I'm living the dream. I'm always living the dream.
You and me both.
I figure, what's the alternative, right? We might as well. Might as well. I mean, even if it's a nightmare, you still have to live for the dream.
Have to find a way through it.
Well, sir, I'm going to read your bio and we'll get cooking here. So, everybody, we have Mr. Darrell Williams. Darrell brings extensive experience as a master certified life coach and a member of the Federal Coaching Network. Darrell is an inspirational speaker and certified facilitator who provides clients with expertise in the realm of leadership, relationships, and purpose. His leadership background includes 30 years of federal service, highlighted by his introduction into the White House Communications Agency Hall of Fame. His leadership coaching is based on a stellar 20-year military career where he traveled as an operations and vice presidential communications officer, leading over 500 White House missions. Following the tragedies of September 11, 2001, Darrell was selected as one of 5 key leaders from 30 senior managers to direct agency action communications for the Vice President of the United States, to include duties as an Air Force Two Command representative. All that stuff is fascinating to me and crazy impressive. Can't wait to get in the coaching because with that background, I'm sure you've got quite a coaching technique. Um, but Darrell, like I said, I promise I'll stop talking here. But with the What If You Could podcast, I always ask my
Mhm.
guest, Mr. Darrell Williams, what is your What If You Could?
Sure. So, great question. First thing that comes to my mind is if I could ensure that everyone, whether it's the private sector or the government sector, could receive leadership training before assuming that role, I would love to provide that type of preparation to help them along their leadership journey.
What does that look like?
Well, from a lot of the different coaching sessions that I've done, there's been a lot of people that are great at what they do, Gary. And because they're so good, management tends to ask them to either, hey, you need to put in for this position, or we want to promote you, right, to be over this branch, this division. And some of the challenges that I'm finding out, Gary, is those people are great at what they do, but they may not necessarily have the background to lead others at the point of their appointment. Not their fault. It's just one of those things that we just fail to do sometimes as organizations, which is to prepare our individuals that are high performers just in case we put them in a leadership role.
I think that's awesome because I think some of the challenges that I have with a lot of people, and I have a lot of challenges with a lot of people, is they promote something or they're adamant about something or they fight for something, yet they've never experienced it. You know what I mean? They're so adamant about things have to be a certain way. And I said, well, have you ever lived in a country like that, or have you ever experienced this like that? They go, well, no, but it's the principle thing. You go, well, if you have no life experience in that, how could you be so positive that that's the direction we should be going in something?
Oh, that's a good point. And then, like when I talk to some of the managers that become leaders, and I make it a point, as soon as I find out that somebody's in a new role, I'll try to make my way through to, either reach out to them or go visit them and say, hey, congrats on the promotion. I'm here for you just in case you want to run some ideas off of another leader. I know that sometimes it can be a little daunting when you went to just leading one person and now you're leading an entire branch or division. Hey, I just want to let you know my door is always open. And what I find, Gary, is when you put that olive branch out there, people tend to be more relaxed and say, "Man, I'm so glad you came by. I was looking for somebody that I could confide in."
Mhm.
Because for some people, it's hard to have that conversation because the perception is, well, what do you mean you don't know how to lead people? Or what do you mean you're not ready? Like nobody wants to receive something like that. But if you go to them in a way that's less demeaning and more of a inquisitive, hey, I've been where you're about to go. So if you ever want to bounce some ideas off of me, feel free to, reach out. And I find that that helps a lot of people open up to say, hey, I could really use some help on this or that.
That is so empowering because honestly, I mean, especially in the military, the government, you know, men, women, who's ever, set to lead, you almost feel like you can't reach out and say, I've got some questions here, or I'm concerned about this, or I understand you have your faith in me to put me in this position, yet I don't know how prepared I am to do this. And there are a lot of times where people won't reach out. They don't feel that if they feel that if they do, maybe they're looked upon negatively.
That's true. And that's one thing in the private sector that I remind people that even in the military, which has the greatest leadership types of training available, when you read that one line at any leadership, any promotion ceremony, the line says you are being promoted based on the leadership potential that is inside of you and that will be required at this next rank. So even the military lets people know we know that you don't have it all today. However, we believe in you enough that you're going to do the things and surround yourself with the right type of people that's going to pull out that maximum leadership that's inside.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why it's wonderful that you're there to have a handout, a hand up, hand out to reach out and say, listen, we've got this. I'm here. I've walked a mile in your moccasins,
Mhm.
and it's okay if you share with me your concerns about the direction of where this is going. And that's what I'm here for. I mean, that's what my coaching's here for, my training's here for, my life experience is here for. I don't want to squirrel away too much, but I need to buy this is what what is the communications agency? What were the operations and communications officer that you were doing? What is that for us lay people who don't have a clue what the communications agency in the White House is?
Sure. So back in the day, like I always tell my mentees when I had hair, I actually was pretty good at leadership. And one of the places where I really fine tuned that was with the White House Communications Agency. And that agency is an organization made up of mainly military members that provide communication support to the executive office. So a lot of people hear about Secret Service, they do the protection, they hear about White House staff, which provides, kind of the day-to-day operation. And then there's a group also behind the scenes, White House Communication Agency, that provides all the communication support. Very unsung heroes. They like it that way because it's not about them or the attention that they seek, but it's about just doing a great job every day, regardless if you're in town in Washington, D.C. or on the road.
So who are you communicating with? Is it a planning department? Is it actual communication where you're talking to people? I don't know. I don't like if it's giving stuff away or whatever. Obviously, we don't want to go there, but
Yes, I won't go there.
okay.
Just say that wherever those principals need to go, there has to be communications available for them to stay in contact with anybody that they need to, and we just ensure that that happens in a secure way.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm gonna leave it there. because I don't want to get anybody in any trouble. We actually toured the White House
Oh, nice.
because, like I said, my son's been, with the works for the Secret Service and stuff like that, and we had planned to go in the West Wing,
Yes,
which is tough to go. I mean,
it
that's where
is. It
everything is,
is.
and but as we were set to go, they decided to bomb Iran. And so they
Mm.
said, today's not a good day. So you could go to the East Wing and hang out over there and do the White House tour, but you're not coming over here. I'm like, hmm. Um, but really, when you're there, and we were just in DC, it's such an amazing city. And
It
you
is.
know that everything's under control. There's security, there's surveillance, there's all this going on, but you don't feel it. You don't feel it. You just feel like it's just such a great experience. I love the city, but I'm sorry. I don't mean to squirrel off. I want to get back to
No,
you,
no,
but
it's okay. I
I,
agree
I,
with you.
I just love it there. So walk me through then how you ended up going from that long-term job, obviously Hall of Fame, which is massive. I don't care what Hall of Fame it is. Anyone who's in any Hall of Fame is obviously very good at what they did. How did you take this and then transition to deciding you want to now work with people and coach people?
Oh, great question, Gary. So one of the things is, and you're in California, I actually grew up in Compton, California. So I always tell people if they ever saw the movie Boys in the Hood, that was the environment that I grew up in. And my brothers and sister grew up during the era of Straight Out of Compton. So just going from that type of environment and trying to figure out, hey, it's got to be another way out there. And I always tell my mentees, I did not know that helicopters didn't fly over everybody's house until I joined basic training and joined the Army because when I started talking to all my other bunk mates, the guys from Chicago and Detroit and all these other places, and we were just sharing stories. And I was the only one that was talking about helicopters flying over your house. They're like, what are you talking about? So it was just amazing, the different ways that we grew up and what we were exposed to. So for me, I made a decision to join the military. Just wanted to see what else was out there. I thought it was a great opportunity going right out of high school. So I joined the military, was stationed in Germany the first time. And going into military, you don't have a lot of rank, obviously. So I had to seek out mentors. So I found some mentors, guys that looked very sharp, boots shine. I'm like, I want to be like that guy. Right. So what do I do? How do I get that? And they were telling me, different ways, especially in the Army, they're big on physical training. So you got to make sure you can run the fastest, do the most push-ups, do the most sit-ups. And I'm like, okay, I can do 2 out of 3. What else can I do? And then they said, hey, make sure your uniform looks good. And the third thing they said was the Army's big on these competition boards, where you can go to Soldier of the Month, Soldier of the Quarter, and then every time you win, you go to a higher level. So I really put a lot of stock into that. And for my particular organization, I went all the way to Soldier of the Year. And although I lost, came in second place, I told people I still won because there was a group of senior leaders there that recognized my path. And by the time I got to my promotion board, because this is just a regular competition board. So when I got to the promotion board, it was the same people that saw my path to that situation. So when I went to my promotion board at that time, the max you can get was 200 points. And I remember answering all the questions, Gary. I knew that I'm going to walk out here with 200. And when I came back into the board, I found out they gave me a 199. So young, immature Darrell Williams says, um, wow, okay. And then the president of the board said, do you have any questions for the board? Right? Because normally you'd be happy and say, wow, 199, I appreciate it. Thank you. And again, my immature self asked the question, yeah, I just want to know why did I get a 199 if I answered all the questions? And the president of the board said, we thought that you might ask that question, stand at ease. and let this be a lesson learned. Now, here we are, Gary, November 4, 2025, and I still remember this lesson from 1986, which was regardless of how far you make it and how many times you get promoted, you don't know everything.
Mm.
Always leave room for learning more. Such a humbling answer. When I heard it, I was like, I am so sorry, Sergeant Major. I apologize for even asking the question. They're like, nope, that's a fair question, but we want to make sure that you remember this moving forward. And I never forgot that. There's always room for learning more. So I say all that to say that once I got out of the military, I knew I had all this great training, these great mentors. What do I do with this information? Like, I can't just go get another job and just look out for self. Because now I'm asking the question, who else could use a mentor? Who else could use leadership coaching? So that's kind of what drove me into it. It's like, yeah, I'll get a regular job, but I'm also want to do something on the side where I can give back. And that's kind of what led to me, doing the leadership coaching.
I want to go back to a word that you said that I touch on a lot, and I've talked to a lot of young fellas like yourself about this word who grew up like you did, whether it's in Philly or New
Hmm.
York or, like you said, Detroit, Chicago, whatever. Exposure. Because I ask guys, how did you get out? And these
Hmm.
guys, your buddies, are still there. They're still, if maybe they're not still there, maybe they didn't live through,
True.
what happened in a lot of these inner cities and stuff.
Right.
And we always agree it comes down to exposure. And somehow you must have seen something, felt something in you that was a little bit different that said, I'm getting out of here and I want to see what else is going on out there.
Mhm.
How did you make that mind switch? Like I don't want to live with helicopters flying over my head every night and sirens and craziness.
Well, two things for me. One, being the oldest of four, I always looked at it as, my brothers and sister are looking up to me.
Mm.
So if I screw it up, there's a possibility that I may screw them up. So I need to make the best decisions, not just for myself, Gary, but also for them to let them know there's options out there. Second, when I got to my junior year in high school and I realized, okay, I need to do something because it's about to get real, right? This adulting thing. And I just started looking at people that are around me that I looked up to. And I actually had two cousins that they probably didn't know it at that time, but they were very influential. One of them was an accountant. The other one, he might have been an engineer or something to that effect. And I just love the way they approach life. And I would spend time with them on the weekends. And again, it goes back to your word, the exposure, being exposed to them on the weekends. And those guys asked me questions a little bit deeper than house school, right? Or what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, they were asking me questions like, what type of person do you want to be? What type of character do you want to have? Right? Um, what type of people do you want to be known with? And those are some really good questions growing up. And then they would ask, okay, so based on whatever those answers are, what can you do to get to that goal? What are some things you might need to stop doing or start doing? And, I didn't realize it, but back then those guys were coaching me. But they never gave me the answer. They never asked me a yes or no question. It was always open ended.
Yeah. I love that. And also kind of the story from 40 years ago where the guy says, no matter how high you get, you don't know everything. And, like I always tell my sons, dude, if you walk into a room and you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Get out of that room and go to one where you don't think you're the smartest guy in the room because you're not going to learn anything in the other room. You already think you're the smartest guy, right?
Good point.
But that jump that you made, I mean, from Compton to the White House to the vice serving with the vice president, Air Force Two, it's a pretty big jump, my friend. That's pretty amazing.
It was a big jump. And like I tell a lot of people, it wasn't this one thing happened that catapulted me, but it was a lot of little things. And one of the big things I tell people, whether you join the military or never join the military, one thing that's common when it comes to great leadership is finding mentors. Like you have to be purposeful to say, yes, I'm in this organization. Yes, I'm here. Now, who can I reach out to that can help mold me to maximize my potential? And I don't care what organization you're in on this planet, there's always somebody there that's willing to mentor you. You just have to be humble enough to look for them.
I love the word humble because that's the truth, really, right? I mean, you see a lot of people who will not humble themselves to, number one, ask for help, number one, accept it, and understand that that mentor, it's like I tell people, like Michael Jordan always says, he goes, I've had a coach my whole life. I could be the greatest basketball player in the world, a coach, right? I believe in being coached. And I don't
Yes.
think, like you said, you never know it all. You don't. I mean, if you do, well, then just give up. All right, you're the greatest. All right, just give call it a day. And I think it comes down to for you, what I get is some deep commitment to serve. I mean, you wanted to serve your country. Now you want to serve people. You got out and you said, I'm not just going to go get a 9 to 5 job and work for me, my family. I want to serve. I want to work for others. And that's a really honorable thing.
No, you're right. And I was in a meeting today with some leaders, and we were talking about helping this organization establish their values. Great organization, they do a lot of good things, but there's no written values that allow the organization to, no matter what happens, look at their North Star to say, hey, let's make sure whatever we do, whether it's people, technology, or the mission, we need to stay true to our North Star. What are those values that we hang our hat on? And I was giving them an example, and I pulled up my phone because back in 2019, I went to a training course and it talked about values and personal mission statements. And I read to them at that table. So I'm not checking my phone to, check a message. I want to show you something. And I said, this is how important values are, right? If you set it up the right way, no matter what you do, you're going to stay true to that. And when I read my value statement, I can't remember all of it now, but it had something to the point of, living by guided principles that allow you to not only help others, but give them the confidence to pay it forward. And I was telling them the fact I'm in this meeting right now, and we're talking about developing value to help this organization so that the next generation of people that come after us, they can still live and perform based on those values. It's very important. So again, one of my values was serving others and helping others. So no matter what I'm doing, it keeps me on my own North Star.
Boy, we can go down that values rabbit hole pretty hard. That's for sure, because of such a lack of them, in my humble opinion, nowadays. But I want to keep on the mentors and the leaders topic
Hmm.
for a moment, only because, gosh, I have this conversation with people all the time, and they always tell me I'm wrong, which is good, right? But I just don't see a lot of mentors or leaders out there, especially like after you get back from Washington, D.C., and you go to the Martin Luther King Memorial and you go to Thomas Jefferson Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial, and you see all these amazing leaders and mentors, and you read the words that they said and the things that they believed in, you know, and then you look around today and everyone's creator or whatever they call them on the internet, or everyone's got an audience.
Hmm.
Yet, where are the leaders? Where are the mentors? Where are the people who have the values like you're talking about
So
that
what I
espouse them and teach them, right?
Right. So what I found, Gary, is there are a lot of people out there that are very humble.
Mm.
And although you and I will call them a mentor or call them an influencer or a leader, they're so humble, Gary. They just say, no, I'm not about titles. I'm just here to help somebody else. or I'm just here to pay it forward. So I would say to you that there are a lot of leaders and mentors that are out there, but they're so humble, they don't want to be known and they don't care if they're known. All they care about is that individual that they're working with, and is that individual getting better every day.
Hmm. They're not out there fighting for likes and smiley faces and how many followers they can get and all that stuff. They're one on one. And that kind of brings me to your coaching because you do personal coaching, business coaching. Um, is it your wife who works with you also in the coaching? Yeah.
Absolutely. She coaches a lot of the women, and then I coach a lot of the leadership piece, and then men as well.
Mhm. When you're working with the men, um, it seems to me there's a real challenge for men right now. I mean, men are really kind of floundering. They kind of lost their way. There's a lot of pressure on men right now to not know who they are or what they are and how to lead and I think women have really stepped up. I mean, women are like, well, I'm just going to have to handle this because you guys can't get your act together. What are you seeing when you're working with the men and how they want to improve?
That's a good point. And I think a lot of it is not going in there with any type of preconceived notions, but just finding out, where are they right now? And then what is the goal that they want to achieve? Once we figure out that, especially with coaching, it's not like counseling where you start going back in the day and trying to figure out what led to this. Coaching is all about moving forward. So asking them those open-ended questions of, okay, what does being a leader look like for you? Whether it's coaching them within their organization or just coaching them as to be a better father or a better
Mm,
um, husband. And then once they open up and say, "Well, I don't know what that looks like because I have not been exposed to this or that." It's like, okay, so let's not worry about the past. Moving forward, what type of things did you not receive that you would like to receive moving forward?
mm,
And then they'll start listing some things and say, okay, so now let's put yourself in your shoes
mm,
as a husband before we even get down to the kids. As a husband, what are those things that you would like your wife to say about you at the end of the day, right? At the end of the month, at the end of the year. And then they start coming up with their own goals. And then I say, okay, so now based on those goals, what are some things that you can either start doing or stop doing? And it's amazing. There's like me. Well, I guess I can stop watching Sports Center 24/7. I was like, been there, done that. And I can tell you that there are some dividends that come with that. So just helping them identify, let's not focus on the past. Let's just focus on moving forward. And then the second thing, as a father, right? What are some things that you would have liked to have had, right? Somebody to tell me they love me, somebody that show up at my games, right? Somebody that, believed in me or whatever the case is. Okay, so now how can you do that moving forward with your own children? What's one thing you can just start doing? Because I always try to tell people, don't look at this grand, or I had to start doing this huge thing all of a sudden. That's not really the right answer, and it's hard to stick to something like that. And that also just allows you to kind of get more defeated. But if you could just start, kind of like when these people say, how do you eat an elephant, right? A little bit at a time. The same thing goes with their goals. Just what are some little things you can do just to be, a better father, right? And then just breaking it down that way. And then the other thing about us men, which we have to get past, is, gosh, Gary, we're so stubborn that we believe that, man, as much as I know Gary has a son that's already in the military, and my son is thinking about going to the military, I can't call Gary and ask him for advice. I got to figure this out on my own. And that is just such a big myth for us as men. A lot of men that have accomplished a lot will tell you that they had a mentor or an accountability partner or another true friend that said, "Hey, man, I noticed that you got this going on. How's that working out for you? Right? What do you need help with when it comes to that? Here's what happened to me when I went through a similar situation. And when you can finally kind of, as men, let down that mask and just say, man, I'm glad I can talk to Gary man to man. Hey, Gary's not going to look at me any different, right? And he's just going to treat me with respect and say, hey, I'm here for you. Hey, we can have this talk again in 30 days, right? Whether you want to have coffee or have lunch. And let's just kind of talk about this journey that you're on. And I think allowing men to realize it's okay to ask for help does a lot for them.
That is so powerful. I mean, whether you want to call it a mastermind group, support group, men's group, hanging out with the dudes, man cave, whatever's going to make someone feel comfortable that they're in a safe place that they can share where you can say, dude, been there, done that, brother. Now
There
bring
you
me
go.
something, bring me something because I want you to be here and I want you to open up and I want you to know this is a safe place, right? You can leave your mask out there, you can leave your macho out
Yes.
there, you can leave bravado out there, but that's not what we bring here. What we bring here is truth, honesty. Because otherwise, why are you even bothered? If you can't bring it, I want you to bring it. I want you to be able to feel safe here. And the other thing that you talked about is just the overwhelm, right? It's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. It's like I'm not gonna tell you to show up next week and have every situation in your life healed. Right? I'm gonna ask you, did you watch a little bit of less of ESPN this week, right?
The truth and being, and that's another good thing we as men can do a great job of, is just being transparent, right? A lot of times people see, like, wow, man, you just seem like you got it all together. Your kids are doing this. I'm like, yeah, that's the outside persona that it looks like through the window. But let me tell you about the times when, me and my daughter didn't see eye to eye, or when I wasn't doing all my husband duties and my friends called me out on it and said, hey, when's the last time you took your wife out on a date? I'm like, oh, well, work gets in the way. And, I got these community events going on. And like, okay, that's nice. However, your first responsibility is to your wife. So again, when was the last time you took your wife on a date? Okay, we failed that one. When is the next time you're taking her on a date? And I'm going to call you on it the day after. It's like you have to have those type of people around your circle that don't care about, Darrell with the title, but Darrell as a person.
Uh, I love that. And accountability is so important. And it's also the way you bring the accountability, right? I mean, it's not like, look, dude, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm not
Yes.
here to get in your stuff, right? I love you. If I didn't love you, if I didn't care, I wouldn't be doing this, but I'm not here to bring you down. I'm not here to call you out in any other way. It's just I love you, man. And
Hmm.
I know that we can do this because I've walked a mile in your moccasins. I get this. Like you said, yeah, you're looking in the window, but when the blinds are closed, dude, you have no idea the disaster that happens on it's just life being life, right?
It's true. Like I was speaking to a group of men last month, and we were talking about your past is not your present. And I changed it up on them and I said, well, not only is your past not your present, it's also not your future. And I told those brothers, I said, hey, this is one great step. It's getting back on track to whatever it is that, you're destined to do or that you want to do. And I was telling them that it's okay to ask for help. Like I had, some challenges with my daughter. I didn't know, right? I had my oldest was a boy, and he and I, we kind of saw eye to eye and were able to talk to him. I was like, man, how do I raise a daughter? Right? This is crazy. So what did I do? I went to two guys in my church that one guy, he had a set of twins like I did, and then he raised four girls, and then another guy I went to, he had only one child, which was a daughter, but I loved their interaction, right? Just how they talked to their daughters and the fact that their daughters even were coming to talk to them. Like, I'm like, "Hey, man, how did you get to that stage? And how many lunches do I need to buy you so we can have this conversation? Because I want that, and I like that, and when I talk to those guys individually, they all pretty much said the same thing. It didn't start off that way. It started off, we were bumping heads. And one thing they taught me, especially when my daughter was, I want to say 11th grade, and that's the age for some of them, depending on your daughter, where they start dressing like everybody else at the school.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't want to screw this thing up because I know the military inside of me is going to say, do not wear, do not this. And one of those guys told me, it's like, Darrell, if you come across that way, they're going to do it despite you, right? They're going to put it in their backpack. They're going to get to school. They're going to go in the bathroom. They're going to change. They said the best thing you can do is explain to them why it's important to dress professionally and what that means. And because and I love how he broke it down to me, Gary. He said, Darrell, you're talking to them as a 58-year-old, but you got to remember they're only 17. So you have to find a way to say it in a way that they can understand it and want to grasp it. Then I was like, okay, so I can't go and throw all the stuff out the closet that I don't like. He's like, no. He said, you got to find a compromise. And I'm telling you, Gary, if it wasn't for them, I would not have came up with the compromise. I would have did what I thought was the right thing. And like, who cares if they're got feelings or not? You know, I bought those clothes anyway. That's not the right answer. So the compromise that one of them helped me realize was, okay, hey, around the house, you can wear certain things. If we go run certain errands, right, and you're with me or your mom, you can wear certain things. But at school, you will only wear school appropriate attire. And I said, matter of fact, I called the school and I asked them, hey, there's a lot of young ladies that are wearing midriffs. Are they supposed to do that? And they said, no, there's a clear policy that says they're not supposed to do that, but unfortunately, the parents aren't enforcing it. So I took that information to my daughter and said, hey, I can't control everybody else's kids, but I'm saying for you under this household, I want you to, carry yourself with a little bit more respect. I want you to meet the rules of the school because the same way you support the rules in school, you're going to support rules in life. If you start breaking rules in school, it becomes easy to break rules in life. Right. So just explaining it to them, it's not just about dad being old fashioned. It's about, I want the best for you.
That last line you said is the absolute truth that your child knows in their soul. They want dad to be there and step up and notice and make that extra step, do that extra step. They might fight it. I don't know a single girl who hasn't put the clothes in the backpack and changed at school. Boys just don't do that because we're going to wear the same clothes. We just pick it up off the floor, smell it,
Yep.
maybe not even smell it. We're just going to put it on
It's
and
not
wear
as
it the next
dirty.
day. We don't even care, right? But the girls would do that. But deep inside, children have this deep, all humans, all of us, I don't care how old you are, have this deep desire to be loved. And the
Yes.
and the way that you show that love is by giving the attention and saying, "Hey, just what you said, man. I mean that Darrell, that's a beautiful thing because you worked hard to make that effort with your daughter. You could have thrown your hands up and gone either way. Like, I'm just going to throw all this stuff out and I'm just going to be hardcore and we're just going to bat heads, right? Or you could have gone
That's
the
it.
other way and completely ignored it and said, well, you do whatever you want to do. You're 17. You think you're an adult. Both of those are not going to get you where you need to go.
They're
And
not.
you made that effort to go, look, I'm learning with you, right? But there's one thing I know more than anything. It's I love you to my core, to my bone, and I feel this is the best thing. And she feels that.
Oh, that's true. And again, it's up to us as men to, again, I always tell people, look around, see if there's somebody, whether it's your job on a professional basis or within your community from a personal basis, like who do you see that, wow, it just seems like they do things in a way that I would like to do it. And I said, you'd be surprised just approaching the type of people and just, again, the humility, Gary. Hey, you don't know me, but man, I've been watching you these last couple of weeks, and I really admire how you do X. Or I really admire how you and your wife dress alike for certain engagements. I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but just kind of talk to me about, you know, why you even make the decision to dress like your wife when you come to different events. Like, what's behind all of that? And then when they start sharing with you and they just tell you, hey, it's not a big deal, just another way of us showing connection. Like, wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah. Do you think, I know you coach a lot of different people and a lot of
Hmm.
different, um, I know that mental health is such a real tough go right now. It just seems like mental health is squirreled completely out of control with what's going on in our world right now. But do you see also maybe different communities, black communities, and Hispanic community, Asian community, white community? Do you see that different cultures have a little bit of a challenge in certain areas more than others, or it just is it just a men are from Mars, women are from Venus type of thing, where it's just like, dude, we're just we're always gonna have that challenge. It's just gonna we got to work through that with communication.
No, you're right, Gary. It's really across the board. Um, One of the challenges, even in the military, I don't know if you had that conversation with your son or not, but military and veterans, um, they have a lot going on their plate when it comes to that type of thing. And then those that are not in the military, but they still been exposed to a lot of situations, they have it as well. I think the key is helping those individuals realize that it's okay not to be okay. We have to make it where we can talk about that, right? Instead of, "Oh, what do you mean? Suck it up." You know, everybody goes through something, snap out of it. Like those are not the right type of terminology that we used to say back in the day when we didn't know any better. But now, we just have to be really more attentive to say, and here's what I found that helps me out with that, Gary. If there's somebody that may be going through that type of challenge and they're not ready to open up to me yet, we may just have breakfast or lunch, and then I share a story. Like, hey man, I just remember, I'm feeling pretty good now, but man, 3 months ago I was really going through. And then they say, well, what are you talking about? Like, man, I
Mm.
just wasn't feeling my best. I felt like everything I was doing around me was the wrong thing. And it's like, golly, I just did the same thing 6 months ago and it was working. Now it just seems like everything is the opposite is happening. And God, man, I just got so frustrated. I got down on myself and, I didn't know what to do. And, you know, fortunately, I reached out to somebody and said, hey, can we talk? Can we do this? And when I sat down with that person, I was like, man, everything I'm doing just like it's the opposite is happening. And then I just got some advice from somebody else, and they kind of helped me through those steps. And I just shared the story, didn't try to get a reaction, and kind of summed it up by like, man, I just appreciate the fact that there's people out there that's willing to help, and just shared the story. Then we finished, grabbed a bite to eat, and then when they felt comfortable, they said, "Wow, that's funny you would mention that. I've kind of felt that as well." And then just allowing them to realize, one, be transparent, like, hey, all of us go through this at one time or another, and it's normal and it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay is a great line because it is okay. I don't care what it is you're going through. That's why I love the word going through because you're going through this. You're not ending here. You're not
That's
dying on this.
right.
You're going through it, and we could go through it and sharing that bond. When you are able to share that bond and get that comfort zone with someone. I think you might be old enough like me to remember the old Get Smart episodes
Yes.
when he and the chief would get in the cone of silence, right? And it never worked, but they got in the cone of silence. And I used to tell my friends, let's go in the cone of silence, man. Let's get where you're safe and let's share what's going on because you know my disaster of of what's going on with me. So you can see if you can outdo me. I mean, it's all sorts of craziness. Um, where does how much does faith play a role in what you and your wife do?
Great question. So for us, it does play a big role. But one thing we've noticed as coaches, and that's why when we reach out to our clients, we ask them, or they reach out to us, we ask them, what are your values? What drives you? What are your things? So if we know that somebody says, well, hey, I go to church or I go to a synagogue, so faith is very important to us, then we'll incorporate that within our coaching. But if somebody doesn't mention those type of things and say, hey, I'm just a guy that, I believe in life, I believe in values, and say, okay, so we won't touch that. Right. So we kind of figure out what is it that best motivates them, what drives them, and then we'll try to use that within the coaching. Funny story, Gary. We had a couple that wanted to come to us for relationship coaching. The wife was very spiritual, very faith based. The husband, like, nah, church is not my thing. So it's like, okay, got it. We'll work through it. So we have a book that we go through for premarital coaching, different topics and things like that. So my wife was like, man, how are you going to approach this session when we meet next week? Because, the individual's not faith based. I said, I think I got an idea. So we'll try. So anyway, we get to the question, Gary, and we go, hey, so when we read the scripture about First Corinthians 12, right? When it talked about love, right? We asked the wife, what are some of your takeaways, some things that you can actually apply in your marriage? And she's nailing all these different words that we've heard before, and I can see the husband's like, do not ask me that question, right? So when she finishes, I go to the husband, I say, hey, I said, what type of music do you like? And he goes, I love R&B. Like, good, good, good. Who's your favorite R&B love song artist? And he goes, um, say Teddy Pendergrass, whatever. And I go, what's the best love song that he ever sung? And he would give me the topic. And then I would just say something, Gary, like, so in that song, what were some of the things that he mentioned that he was trying to communicate to the woman about staying together for a long time? And man, Gary, he was able to quote the lyrics from the song, the refrain, right? And I'm like, so what was he trying to say in that song? He's like, oh, basically, he was just trying to say that no matter what they went through, no matter how hard the times were, like, he's going to be there for her no matter what. And I said, you just described First Corinthians, the 12th chapter. And he was like, really? I was like, absolutely. Out of all the stuff that happens, love is the main thing. And Teddy Pendergrass said it in the song. Doesn't matter if it's in the Bible or if it's in the song. The fact of the matter is, it's still true.
That is so awesome. Now, did you think about that ahead of time, or did that happen on the fly? Because that's epic, Bob.
No, no, I thought about it ahead of time because I had to
That was
find out
awesome.
because I have three things I do with people that's non-faith based. I'm either gonna share examples from music, movies, or sports. Normally, I find people in one of those three categories. And then
That's so good.
the rare option where they don't like sports, they don't like movies, they don't like music, and then I can always find a hobby. Like for example, that met a guy that was into gardening, right? That's his thing, right? And I'm like, hey, so what happens if you don't tend to your garden? Oh man, the weeds will come, the soil gets dry, and oh my God, you spend all this extra money trying to just get it back to normal versus it growing. And it's like you just describe your marriage. If you don't tend to it, if you don't keep those weeds away, right? You spend so much time just trying to manage it, and you can never get to the part of your marriage where it should be growing. And they get it, Gary. They absolutely understand it.
How could you not get it? I mean, that is just so perfectly done. And it's so righteous because you said, look, Teddy Pendergrass could have been a apostle. All right, he could have been a rapper apostle or R&B apostle because he could have taken Corinthians 12 or 13 because everyone puts Corinthians 13 in their wedding, right? I mean,
Right,
everyone
right.
does it, right? And he could have put that to a maybe some Barry White music in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It wouldn't change the meaning at all.
It's just so good, Darrell. That's good. That's good. And I love how just from when I went down the rabbit hole on your website and stuff and looking at your stuff, you do seem to fit the people. Um, you don't try to jam one thing down people's throat. Like, this is how I do it, and you're just gonna follow these rules, or you're not gonna, this isn't gonna work for you. You do take a really great approach and have the people fit into your program. Just like what you said about taking something that they love and breaking it down in a way that they can understand it. Whether you're sharing your story to help them open up, or you're taking one of their life experiences, the music, the garden, the movies, and having them see it is brilliant. It's beautiful.
No, and I think that's where, you always hear this statement, meet people where they are. And I really love that statement. It's like, I need to know, what motivates you, what drives you, what are your hobbies? Because now that gives me an idea of when we get to different strategies, I can't come up with the strategy for them. They have to come up with it on their own, but I can help them figure out the strategy. And, again, being able for them to relate it back to whatever it is that means the most to them, whatever occupies their time the most. It's I just find that it's just really makes it more relevant.
I mean, because we are all searching for something, whether it's peace, whether it's freedom, whether it's love, whether it's forgiveness. I mean, we're all searching for something. I don't know anybody who's got it completely made and they're done, right? Or like you said,
True.
you're done learning anything. We're all searching for something, and having help on the journey to get there, to find what you're searching for, is wonderful. And I love coaching, and I love what you guys are doing with it. And I love you and your wife are doing it together. That's powerful.
Yeah, it definitely helps out because that's one thing when I was in the military, I did so much by myself. And then once I retired, I kind of asked the question, like, what is it that I want to do next? And then how do I want to do it? And again, I had one of my mentors, he was a chaplain, and I was finishing up my MBA, and we were, kind of checking in on each other. And I asked him what was he doing at that time, and he told me he was, getting certified as a coach. And I was like, wow, that sounds intriguing. Tell me about that. Like, first of all, why are you even doing it? You're a chaplain. You don't need to learn how to coach or be certified as a coach. But what he said, Gary, really resonated with me, which was, Darrell, I can talk to anybody that's faith based, and I already got their attention. But for somebody that doesn't care about the Bible, I'll need to be able to find a way that I'm approachable enough that they can still bring me their challenges and I can help them. So when I heard that, I was like, man, not only do I want to get certified as a coach, but let me ask my wife, hey, what do you think about us doing this one together? Right. And that's the part that really kind of helped me. It's like, yeah, I can be a coach and still be a lone ranger, but man, how much more enriching is the conversation when we go out to dinner? Like, wow, what was your takeaway from, you know, that couple? What do you think we need to add to or add more of? And just being able to share that with her on the journey, it's just kind of fun.
Wow. And that is super impactful because not only does that just keep growing your guys' marriage and your guys' relationship, but that respect. I mean, she's got to look at you sometime and just go, Darrell, I'm not going to tell you because I don't want you to get a big head, but dude, when you can be vulnerable like that with me and you can say, babe, what'd you come out with that? Or how did I handle that? What did I do right by those people with that? And what are you doing with this? That's a powerful combination to bring together because it's not easy. Not every couple can even like each other. COVID exposed that. There's so many divorces, people don't even like each other, but that's pretty powerful because you are bringing two techniques together, even if it's the same technique. You're bringing it with your own bend, your own personality, your own way of connecting. Um, and if you guys can allow each other to have that space, that's powerful.
Yeah, it is. But like I tell people all the time, what you see now with me and my wife is not when we first started. Like I was throwing the military stuff into the coaching. I was throwing all that stuff, and she and I would have some conversations like, do you have to come across that way all the time? And when we talk to people, I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? So I had to learn, like, wow, maybe my approach isn't the best way, and I had to be, vulnerable and say, hey, so I'm not going to totally change who I am, but what are some things that you've noticed that I might can work on, right? And it just took time. I did not get to this point overnight at all. It took time.
Yeah. And she had to hold that space for you. She had to hold that space for you, and you had to open up and understand that this is your soulmate, this is your partner. She has my best interest, I have her best interest, and we want to do this together. This isn't a competition.
No.
We want to do the best we can for people and serve people. Like from where you started saying, you got out of the service, you go, how do I serve? And you're doing it together, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that fact. It's really definitely rewarding for sure.
Yeah, but I know it isn't easy, and you didn't get there.
Definitely not. I'm not even gonna lie.
Well, Darrell, you've been awesome, and I'm so grateful for your time. These hours just fly by, fly by, fly by. So I have a confession to make. I lied earlier because
Okay.
I'm a liar. I said I had one question, but I
That's
actually have
okay.
two. I have two questions. I
I'm
have one
fine with
more
that.
question.
Sure.
So I like to kind of sign off, and I ask my guests, if
Hmm.
if there's something that means something to you, right here in Darrell's heart and in your soul, but saying that you like or a belief that you have, or there's something that Darrell would like to leave us with before we sign off, what would that one thought be?
I think for me, that big thought would really just be wherever you are now is not your final destination. And I don't care if you're a father, a husband. Um, life is a journey, right? So there's some hills, there's some valleys. I know it gets tough, it gets so hard, but know that you don't have to walk this journey by yourself. Just too many people just kind of shut themselves off from the world, especially when things get really tough. We get even more quiet and more silent. And I would just want to challenge people. The tougher things get, um, try to reach out to people even more. It's kind of counterproductive. I know, counter thinking, but that's what you have to do. The harder this thing gets, the more I'm going to find somebody to talk to.
Yeah, and a lot of times, especially guys, we're locked down, we're like animals. We're like wounded animals. We have to go off in the corner and lick our wounds and be alone, be by ourselves. I did that after my first wife passed. I mean, I lost a lot of friends because I just wouldn't reach out. And people are like, dude, we want to help, we try to help, but you're a mess. You need help and you gotta reach out to people. Light brings healing to everything, and darkness usually does not. And you can't just live there in the dark. So I love that. I love that you said that. And it's just, you know, not to bring too much faith into it. Some people like faith-based stuff and some people don't. But
Hmm.
when I was 19 years old and I moved to San Diego and I met this young lady, she gave me a box and I still have it. And that's, I don't know,
Mm.
100 years ago. And it was just a little box with the lid and it's this wooden box. But on the cover was footprints in the sand. The
Mm.
poem Footprints in the Sand. I didn't know that she
Yeah.
was Christian. I didn't know the difference between Christian and Muslim or Jew. I didn't know the difference in any religion, right? But I said, well, what? I love the saying. When you, Jesus, you left me, God, you left me. I was in my loneliest time. It was, just the footprints. You go, that's when I was carrying you, and I was like,
Mm.
dude, I got chills now, like I had the when I first saw that box. And but whether you're religious or not, asking for help and asking for someone to be there for you, whether it's Darrell and his wife and coaching, leadership, mentorship, or like you said, just having a coffee or a lunch and just saying, tell me what's going on. Let's share, let's walk through this.
No, and I think the biggest thing too, especially with us as guys, we can we're not women. Like we're not just gonna show up and just start talking about everything. Like it has to be in, some type of activity where it's, food, basketball, golf. Like guys talk when we're doing things,
Yeah,
right? So we just have to, pay attention to those type of things and, make sure we just, like you said earlier, just create the space,
yeah,
right? Just create the space and, and let them know that, hey, I'm always going to be here for you whenever that time comes. You want to talk. I don't know what it's like to lose a wife, but whenever you just want to, this is one thing I always tell people: if you just want a listening ear, right? Uh, I have a friend of mine. Matter of fact, I was telling you when we were emailing each other. He just lost his wife for 50 years, and it's like I don't know what that's like. So I just reached out to him. It's like I don't even want to have a long conversation with you. I just want you to know that I've heard about it. I'm sorry. And if it's okay with you, because that's another thing with guys, we got to ask permission. If it's okay with you, can I check in on you, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks? Right. So I think, just like you said, creating that space for other guys is a really, really good thing.
yeah. I love that, man. Darrell Williams, you're awesome. Can you please share with us where we can get more Darrell Williams? Please tell us your information about your wife too. I don't want to leave her out of this. Your websites, social media, on where can we find more of you?
Sure. We are on Instagram through Alliance Seminars Coaching. You can also find us on Facebook as well through Alliance Seminars Coaching. And then our website is allianceseminars.org.
And your wife's name is?
Veronica. You'll see her all on the website as well.
Yeah, her beautiful picture is on there. You guys are on there together. It's awesome stuff. I love what you're doing. I'm a huge believer in coaching and mentorship and leadership. And I love the way you're doing it because you're allowing people to find their space. You're not trying to put a square peg in a round hole. You're allowing people to find their way with a little bit of guidance with from Veronica and Darrell, and I think that's a powerful way.
It works for us and it can work for others.
All right, man. And everybody, please look for Darrell Williams and his wife Veronica at Alliance Seminars and Coaching. You go to their website, we'll put it on there, and I think you guys would be happy to reach out to them. They're good folks. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. See you guys. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.